first time I saw the room, it was a mere glimpse, a whisper of something otherworldly in the sterile halls of St. Margaret's Hospital. As a paranormal blogger, I've chased shadows and rumors all my life, but nothing prepared me for the room that shouldn't exist. I had come to the hospital to gather stories about its haunted past, expecting nothing more than eerie tales to entertain my readers. Strolling through the dimly lit corridors, my eyes were drawn to an old wooden door, its paint peeling, standing in stark contrast to the modern renovations around it. I blinked, and it was gone, replaced by a blank wall, as if it had never been there. Intrigued and a little unnerved, I asked a passing nurse about the door, but she looked at me as if I were speaking nonsense. The more I inquired, the more I was met with blank stares and dismissive shrugs. It was as if the room was a figment of my imagination, a trick of the light. Undeterred, I delved into the hospital's archives, uncovering stories of an old wing that had been demolished decades ago, plagued by mysterious deaths and unexplained phenomena. The descriptions matched the fleeting vision of the door I had seen. The pieces of the puzzle were coming together, but the picture they formed was far from comforting. A few nights later, the door appeared again. This time I didn't hesitate. I pushed it open and stepped inside. The room was a stark contrast to the modern hospital outside. It was an old-fashioned operating theater, complete with antiquated surgical tools and faded bloodstains. A chill ran down my spine as I realized I had stepped into a moment from the hospital's gruesome past. As I explored, the air grew thick, and whispers echoed off the walls, each word a fragmented tale of pain and despair. I could almost see the ghosts of patients and doctors, trapped in an endless loop of suffering. The room felt alive, aware of my presence, and I knew I had to leave. But when I turned to the door, it had vanished. Panic set in as the walls seemed to close in around me. I was trapped in a nightmare, a prisoner of the past. My only hope was to uncover the secrets of the room and find a way back to my own time before I became another ghost, haunting the halls of St. Margaret S. The absence of the door was like a silent scream in the dimly lit room. I found myself pacing the floor, each step echoing like a heartbeat in the oppressive silence. The air was thick with the scent of antiseptics and something darker, something that spoke of hidden truths and buried fears. As I wandered, I realized the room was changing. The surgical tools shimmered and shifted, transforming into different instruments from various eras. It was a terrifying carousel of medical history, each turn revealing a new layer of the hospital's dark past. Then, the whispers grew louder, morphing into discernible voices. I heard the desperate pleas of patients, the clinical detachment of doctors, and the mournful sobs of the bereaved. Each voice was a thread in the tapestry of sorrow that this room had woven over the decades. Suddenly, the room jolted, and I was thrust into a new scene. I stood in the midst of a 19th century plague ward, the air heavy with the groans of the dying. The stench of death was overwhelming, and I choked back a scream as I saw the lifeless eyes of the victims staring back at me. In this ghastly tableau, I noticed a pattern. There was a rhythm to the room's shifts, a logic hidden in the madness. Each scene represented a pivotal moment in the hospital's history, each one more tragic than the last. I began to understand that the room was not just a portal, but a sentient entity, feeding on the pain and fear of its inhabitants. It was a parasite, and I was its latest victim. My presence had awakened it, and now it sought to ensnare me in its eternal dance of death. As the room shifted again, I found myself in the midst of a 20th century epidemic. The cries of the sick filled the air, a cacophony of despair. It was then that I realized my escape lay in understanding these moments, in uncovering the truth behind the tragedies that haunted this place. Only by confronting the horrors of the past could I hope to find my way back to the present. Surrounded by the chaos of the epidemic, I felt the weight of despair pressing down on me. The faces of the afflicted were etched with pain, a haunting mirror of humanity's fragility. Amidst the suffering, I began to piece together the sinister puzzle of St. Margaret's S. Each historical episode revealed a fragment of a larger truth. The hospital had been a nexus for inexplicable tragedies, a magnet for suffering that seemed to transcend time and reason. The more I learned, the more I felt the room's malevolent grip tightening around me. In a moment of respite, as the room shifted yet again, I found myself in a quieter, more somber scene. It was the aftermath of a fire that had ravaged part of the hospital in the early 20th century. Ash and charred remnants surrounded me, a testament to the fragility of life and the inevitability of death. It was here, amidst the ruins, that I found a glimmer of hope. Scattered among the debris were old journals and letters, remnants of those who had perished. Their words spoke of love, loss, and a mysterious figure, a doctor who had been at the center of many of the hospital's tragedies. He was a constant in the shifting narrative, a shadowy presence weaving through the tapestry of pain. With a new sense of purpose, I dove deeper into the room's memories, seeking out this enigmatic doctor. The room responded to my resolve, its transitions becoming more rapid, more urgent. It was as if it was challenging me, testing my resolve against the horrors it presented. Then, in a scene from the mid-20th century, I saw him. The doctor was there, a figure of authority and knowledge, yet his eyes held a depth of sadness that spoke of unspeakable burdens. He was the key, the linchpin that held the room's secrets together. As I reached out to him, the room convulsed violently, and I was thrown into another time, another tragedy. This time, it was a scene of a medical experiment gone horribly wrong, a reminder of the hubris and cruelty that can reside in the hearts of those sworn to heal. I realized then that the room was not just a portal to the past. It was a reflection of the human soul, a manifestation of our deepest fears and darkest sins. To escape, I needed to confront not just the horrors of St. Margaret S., but the darkness within myself. In the midst of the medical catastrophe that surrounded me, my mind reeled. The realization that the room was not only a gateway to the past, but also a mirror to the soul, was overwhelming. The horrors I witnessed were not just historical events, they were manifestations of the darkest aspects of human nature, reflected through the lens of the hospital's tragic past. As I navigated through the scenes of despair and tragedy, I began to understand that my own fears and inner darkness were feeding the room's power. The room was not just showing me St. Margaret's haunted history, it was showing me the shadows within myself, the parts of me that resonated with the pain and suffering of the past. Determined to break free, I focused on the mysterious doctor, the central figure in the room's macabre tapestry. Each scene brought me closer to him, to understanding his role in this nightmarish cycle. He was a man burdened by guilt and sorrow, his life intertwined with the hospital's darkest moments. In a scene from the late 20th century, I finally confronted him. Amidst the sterile surroundings of a modern operating room, he stood, a ghostly figure of remorse. Our eyes met, and in that moment, I felt a connection, a shared burden of knowledge and pain. He spoke, his voice a whisper that cut through the eerie silence. "You seek to understand, to escape, but the path is not through me. It's through you. You must face the darkness within. Accept the part of you that resonates with this place. Only then can you break free." His words echoed in my mind as the room shifted once more, plunging me into a new scene. This time it was personal, a memory from my own life, a moment of loss and despair that I had long tried to bury. The room was forcing me to confront my own past, my own pain. As I relived the memory, I understood the doctor's words. The room was not just a prison of the past, it was a crucible for the soul. To escape, I had to accept my own darkness, my own connection to the suffering that the room embodied. With newfound resolve, I faced my past, embracing the pain and sorrow that I had hidden away. As I did, the room began to lose its hold on me, the walls trembling as the fabric of the illusion started to unravel. As the walls of the room trembled and the scenes of tragedy around me began to fade, I felt a profound shift within myself. The darkness that I had carried, the pain and fear that had resonated so deeply with the room's malevolent energy, was losing its power over me. By confronting my own shadows, I was breaking free from the room's grasp. In those final moments, as the room dissolved into nothingness, I saw the doctor one last time. His spectral figure, once a symbol of despair and guilt, now appeared serene, almost relieved. It was as if my liberation had also freed him from his eternal torment. He nodded to me, a silent acknowledgement of our shared journey through the darkness, and then faded away like a wisp of smoke. I found myself standing in the modern hallway of St. Margaret's Hospital once again, the familiar sights and sounds of the bustling hospital returning to my senses. The ghostly door, the portal to the past and to the depths of my own soul, was gone. In its place was a smooth, unmarked wall, indistinguishable from the rest of the corridor. As I walked through the hospital, a sense of peace enveloped me. The whispers of the past, the echoes of pain and suffering that had once seemed so overpowering, were now just distant memories. I realized that the room had not only been a trap, but also a teacher. It had shown me the darkest corners of history and of myself, forcing me to confront what I had feared the most. In the days that followed, I wrote about my experience, my words a testament to the journey I had undertaken. My blog, once a collection of ghost stories and paranormal investigations, took on a new depth. I shared not just the tale of the Vanishing Room, but also the lessons it had taught me about the human condition, about the power of facing one's own fears and darkness. As I published my story, I knew that my encounter with the room at St. Margaret's would stay with me forever. It had changed me in ways I could never have imagined, teaching me about the resilience of the human spirit and the power of redemption.